All right, welcome into Mile High Territory. Spilly and Troy here with you. All right, we got to get everybody set up for the All-Star break. Final couple games of the first half, if you want to call it a first half, even though we're close to 100 games now. Uh, when we think about where the Rockies are this last series against the Dodgers, I felt like the Rockies earned some respect. Rockies lost last night in San Francisco. But something that stood out, Troy, was Gabriel Hughes. Gabriel Hughes had a crazy outing at Dodger Stadium for his first major league start, and it was awesome. I'm not sure how much you watched of it, but this guy has a 95-mile-an-hour cut fastball that, he's from Alaska. He's one of 12 major league players that have ever been born in Alaska, played in the big leagues. But his favorite player is Mariano Rivera, and it was pretty impressive. They might have another arm.
Yeah, because the velo has been an issue since the Tommy John surgery. When he was drafted, I knew a little bit about him. He was at Gonzaga, and he worked out in Boise, Idaho, with the Broncos' former center, Matt Paradis. And Matt, when he got drafted, Matt was a big baseball guy, even though he played in the NFL. And he's like, "You're going to love this guy. Work ethic is off the charts, smart." So I took interest in it. I wasn't covering, baseball every day then, but he's like, "Keep an eye on this guy." And he started out well. Then he had Tommy John. And again, some of the fallacy with Tommy John, especially with youth parents, is, "Oh, you come back better." You don't always come back better. It's still difficult. And unlike most, his velocity didn't jump up.
So
But
he's always
Billy,
had
I'll
like
be honest.
a four seam grip, but he cuts it.
And so that looked amazing. So what was crazy, I was watching the game because I'm out here in the LA area, and I'm watching it over dinner, and I literally finished my meal while he was in the first inning. I'm like, "Oh my God, he's not going to get out of this. It's going to be a 40 pitch first inning." There was I think a pass ball in there that was ugly, but I'm like, I think he finished with 38 pitches in the first inning, 8 guys hit. I'm like, "Oh my God." But he settled in, showed real composure, real resilience. Not a lot of Rockies pitchers have been able to do that at that juncture of their career. So that impressed me as much as anything. The fact that he took a deep breath and said, I'm bigger than this. This isn't going to define me here, this first inning. And since moving him to the pin, his fastball has not only gone up a couple ticks, but it looks like it's playing up.
Yeah.
And that's a good sign for this guy because, again, it's hard to start as a righty throwing 93.2 as your average velo. If it's cutting at 95, as crazy as it sounds, you would know that's a different pitch.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It was funny. I was talking to Brett Sullivan, Rockies catcher, that day after his outing, and the first inning he threw like 6 different pitches. He threw a changeup, a sweeper, a slider, a curveball, a two-seam fastball, and you could just see the reactions from the left-handed hitter because they had Freddie Freeman and Otani and Max Muncy, and I was like, "Hey, these guys they're not making good swings on the cutter. Why? What the heck are you doing?" And so after the game, I asked Sullivan, I was like, "What did you see in the first inning?" And he got rid of all those pitches. He was like, "That cutter was amazing. You throw it on the back door. No one was going to touch it. Throw it up and in. It was taking off." And I said I told to Gabriel, I told to Alone, "We're throwing cutters. We're throwing that four-seam fastball, and we might throw a curveball. That's it." And that's exactly what happened. It was like
Okay.
Corbin Burns had one of these, and obviously Corbin Burns has been hurt, but he was an elite pitcher for a while, Cy Young Award winner. And what happens with the cutter, if it's a good one, and you have to have the velocity that goes with it, it's the last 2 or 3 feet a hitter can't see the movement, so it's doesn't go where it's supposed to go. Like if you have a four-seam fastball with carry now, like when they talk like, induced vertical breaks or something with ride. So 16
The
inches.
Titleist effect, I call it. The Titleist effect.
Yeah, exactly. Like it just takes off. So 16 inches is league average when it comes to spin rate as far as like this carry. If you're above that, that's usually where you have to swing above the baseball. That's where you hear like the invisible fastball or the one that looks like it's rising. Okay, so anything above league average is good because you get the carry. With the cutter, it's harder to measure because you're not getting that takeoff, but you're getting a side to side. And if you have it and it's about 2 to 3 inches, hitters will never see it. You just can't. The last 2 feet is when it moves. So that's where you get the swing and miss. And to a lefty, it's devastating. That's why Mariano's fastball, from a velocity standpoint, wasn't the greatest fastball of all time. But for the movement profile, nobody could hit it. So
I remember when you guys faced Mariano Rivera. I was talking to Brad Hopp about it, and he's just like, "I'm using my BP bats. I'm not even using when I face him. I'm not even going to use my good bat because I know he's going to break." And I'm like, "Damn!" And he's just like, "It's so frustrating." But you said it's like those. It's so you would describe it as not seeing it, right? Because you're swinging as if it's going to be out over the plate, and then it ends up on your hands as a lefty, right?
Yep. Yeah, it has that late movement at the very end. 2 inches is all you need in this scenario to be able to make it work. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm very curious to see how it ends up moving forward. But Gabriel Hughes at Dodger Stadium, that was probably one of the bigger growth moments I've seen in a long time, especially given the environment. And to your point,
Right.
first inning, like he got out of there, and man, it like he left there as tall as he could possibly be, which he could have
You
been
got to
as
run him
small.
out there, right? You got to
Yeah,
run him out there and keep him in the rotation now, don't you?
I think you have to, and it brings up for Kyle Freeland and some of these other starters now. You're gonna get uh, Sugano-san's going to come back. You also have Jose Quintana that's coming back slowly. You have Gabriel Hughes, you got Michael Lorenzen, you have Kyle Freeland, you have Ryan Feltner. Um, the rotation's going to look a little bit different when guys get healthy. So we'll see what ends up happening.
Yeah, you got to give the young guy a shot. I love Kyle Freeland, but I would trade Kyle. I love Kyle. I just think he's done everything for this franchise he possibly could do. I know there's not great value. I get it. I'd like to see him go somewhere and kind of finish in a different way and not just because Coors Field is just, you talk about wearing the burden of that. No one's pitched there more than he has. And, I mean, we think of the great pitchers at Coors Field, Ubaldo, Jeff Francis, Jorge De La Rosa. They were on better teams. I mean, Kyle hasn't been on a good team since what, 18?
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I just feel like in fairness, and I've written this before, in fairness, let him go finish kind of somewhere else. He's always going to be remembered as a Rocky.
Oh yeah,
It's just, and I'm not even pushing him out. Maybe it's I mean, because Feltner is still younger. Like for me, every decision at this point is made to the future. Kyle, even if he were pitching well this year, he's not really part of the future. When they start winning again, I don't know that he would be in the rotation. I mean, that's probably going to be at least 2 years. I would be shocked if he's still pitching in the rotation. He might be retired by then. So for me, these decisions always get difficult when I covered bad Rockies teams because the veteran deserves to stay, but it doesn't fit what we're trying to accomplish. At some point, you got to just give at bats to the young guys. You don't do it at the expense of Jeremy Burnitz at the end of a season and cost him his incentives. We don't do that now. Let's not do that. But I'm just saying, like, it gets to a point where it's like when my dad coached high school, and I coached sports forever, but my dad coached high school, and he's just like, if you have a senior who's on the bubble in basketball or a junior, and they're the same player, you're better off cutting the senior and playing the junior because the senior is going to be pissed off the whole season. I mean, this is like, because he's not playing, So at some point, you have to move on to the younger guys. And so I don't know. I don't know. You're around it every day. I just think when I saw Hughes, the way he finished, I'm like, he has got to get some run in the rotation.
yeah, and I agree with that. I don't know what to do with Kyle. I mean, like I think to your point, I believe I've heard there are teams that are interested. I don't know who, in Kyle Freeland. I've also been looking at it and wondering out loud, which is Antonio Senzatella has found a home in the bullpen as a bulk
Right.
reliever, and Senzatella is going to have a longer career because of what he did this season. Like his career is now reestablished. If he was continuing to start the way that we saw in the last couple years, he probably would have been DFA'd. He probably would have been released because he was not impactful in the rotation anymore. And so for Kyle, like I think Kyle very easily, because the Rockies only have one left-handed reliever. If that was a conversation, because you have to have complete buy-in from Freeland in order for this thing to work. But if you were to convert him to that multi-inning bulk reliever, he could still be a valuable weapon for the Rockies and for any team that's out there, because we do have 3 weeks until that trade deadline. Could prove to some teams like, hey, this guy can rip through a lineup, get you 9 outs. He's that bridge reliever. You throw him in the 5th inning, and he's getting you to the 8th. And so it's like starter Kyle, game over. So he could even close it out if he's going through a stretch and you guys have a 3 or 4 run lead. So I think you got to be open. I think if I'm a player and I have close to 10 years of service time and I'm just trying to pitch in the big leagues, like I have no offense if you tell me I got to go do this different. Shouldn't be I think Kyle's self-aware and smart enough that if that's what the team is asking him to do, he would do it.
Yeah, and I think you could put it under the broader picture of, as you mentioned, this could be better for your career. If you want to keep pitching for another 2 to 3 years, it's hard to see him being in a rotation for 3 more years. But as either a lefty specialist or a lefty long guy, which there's very few of in the MLB, and then his velocity would probably tick up. My only concern would be he's had so many injuries over the last few years. It's just, he would know this. How is his body going to respond to getting up, every other day or 2 or 3 days in a row? I don't know the answer to that. I would guarantee you that his velocity will go up because he's going to come in firing, just absolute heat-seeking missiles. So I'm rooting for the guy. I hope there is a way to maybe make it fit. And either he comes in and he shows it's perfect for the Rockies, or he has real value for a contender. I'd love to see him go play, Kyle Freeland in the postseason, just like when I saw Sean Chacon do it. And when I could go through the list of guys I've seen that left the Rockies when they were bad. That's why I always cherish the guys I covered like you. They actually won with the Rockies, but I covered it for 20 years, and I think I covered 4 winning seasons. So the guys who left, I was always, especially pitchers, like, hey, it's not the worst thing. I mean, Sean Chacon went from the worst closer in baseball to winning like 11 games.
11 games at the Yankees, yeah. And everybody's like, what the heck? Sean Chacon is like, dude, that guy was good the whole time.
Yeah, it's just he got caught in a rut, and then the bad team. You weren't on the Chacon team where Chu Freeman, they had the inside the park home run in Tampa Bay? That was before you.
We were all at the same time. I was a little bit after, but yeah, I remember. I mean, Chu Freeman is one of my favorite people of all time. Chu Freeman is one of the nicest, greatest humans ever.
So that story, because this is a pod, so you can kind of divert real quick. If they're in Tampa Bay, it's extra innings. It was Ray Sanchez, a light hitting shortstop for Tampa Bay. I want to say Sanchez.
Ray Ordonez. Was it Ray Ordonez?
Was it? It might have been Ordonez. Well, he was the Mets. It might have been, but it was a guy like that, Punch and Judy hitter, and it's that old, that Tropicana. But they're still there. But it was just an absolute dump. And he hits like a low liner to right, and Jeremy Burnitz comes running in to try to catch it, and it goes under his glove. So now it's trouble, and it's going to be an inside the park home run. But you're thinking maybe a triple, because Chu could really run. Like, he had signed to go Texas A&M for football. He's one of the best athletes the Rockies have ever drafted. He runs over to get the ball, and I'm not making this. He runs over to get it, and he stabs down for the ball. And as he does, he gets disoriented, so he turns and throws it to the left field line, like toward the stands in left field. So he's running toward right field, and when he paws it down, instead of turning and throwing it to home, he throws it into left. It nearly goes into the stands in left field. Like he's doing pole to pole with Jose Mesa before the game. And I go up to Chacon. I only bring this up because Chacon, I like covering Sean. He was good. I mean, he's had some issues with it. I like covering the guy. He was always great to me. That year he blew, I think it was like 10 saves. He had a 7.11 ERA. It was like, the joke was like, anyone could get 35 saves if you just keep running him out there, because he had 35 saves and I think a 7.11 ERA. We go up to Sean, and he had blown so many saves that year. This is a Chu Freeman had just thrown a ball that nearly went into the stands in left field. And we walk up, and I look at him, and we're like, yeah, Sean. And he goes, what the do you want me to say?
That's the quote. He's like, what do you want? Yeah.
What do you want? a ball should have been caught, and it ended up getting thrown into the left field stands. Jeremy should have caught it. It wasn't a routine play, but he should have caught it. And then it ends up in the left field stands for an inside the park home run.
Little league home run. Well, I mean,
Oh
like, what do you want? What are guys supposed to say on? So, like, was that a? Did I make a bad pitch, or did I have him hit it to the wrong guy? Wrong guy.
Well, again, and that was like his 9th blown save, and he was always there for us at his locker, always accountable. Hey, it's on me. Bad pitch selection. I left it over the plate. I mean, he looks at us, just like, what do you want from me? He didn't want to say, like, you saw it. What the hell?
That's great. When a player drops an F-bomb, that's when you know he's also killing the sound bite for you. So it's always great. We always like one of those. All right, let's get you set up for the All-Star break. I mean, the All-Star break for me as a player is a trap, right? Like the last couple games before you head into All-Star break, you start to lose your edge. You start to drop your guard. You start thinking about if you're going to Hawaii or wherever, going up to Vail. Well, a lot of players, if you're like a lot of Rockies guys, do go up to Vail for that break. They love going up to Vail. But 38-57 from a record standpoint heading into the weekend. At one point, they didn't have the worst record in baseball. They didn't have the lowest run differential in baseball. I mean, that was like the Kansas City Royals. So it's weird saying like they're better, but they're still record-wise one of the worst. So where do we find ourselves right now? I mean, it's been so much fun watching the last month and a half. Like, if the Rocky season started June 1st, this is like a really enjoyable team to watch.
Yeah, I mean, listen, they're competitive on a nightly basis. They're easy to root for by the way they play the game. Again, it's how you lose. For a few years there, it looked like the Mets this year, where you watch them and it's just lack of effort, lack of execution. You can't you can't hit home runs, and you make up for your lack of home runs with a crap ton of strikeouts. Pitching stinks at every level, and it's hard to watch. And there were a lot of games where you'd be down 5-0, 6-0. This year's team, they have, I think they lead in 8th inning rallies, right? In wins after the 8th inning or trailing after 8. Like, so that is, anytime you show that to me, whether you're as a consumer or a fan, I respect that. When you're out of it and you don't stop competing. Because I would tell kids this, like, the thing you control in sports is effort and attitude. You struggle to, especially in baseball, to control outcome. The ball leaves your bat, you hit it like missile, a guy makes a great play, but you control your effort and attitude. And I see this team, they just look like they show up to the park, they like each other, they have fun. I'm not going to say it reminds me of you guys yet, but part of the reason I liked 06, 07, 08, 09, those teams is you guys, it was a very collegiate feel. Guys cared about each other, cared about their family. And every good team I've covered, every Broncos Super Bowl team, every Rockies playoff team I covered, the guys on the team cared more about the guy next to them than themselves. There was a trace of humility and unselfishness. Every bad Rockies team I covered was selfish. And baseball is a selfish sport, but I'm just saying, it was guys chasing numbers. I'm going to get sack butts down to protect my average. I mean, it was just stuff I was like, I know what they're doing. I get it. When you guys played, it was about the whole. And so that's what I see, some of that. I see it with Rumfield. I see it with Troy Johnson. I see it with the way Castro, his versatility, he moves around. And this is how you start weeding guys out. So to your point, there's progress. There's real progress offensively. And when I get emails, people, the Rockies still stink, but most of them now are starting to discern, like, I like this team offensively. Tovar starts to hit, you really like him. But, pitching, they got ground to cover. But I tell them, I'm like, you're right, but you got to give this front office a chance to draft for a couple years.
Yes.
I mean, you can't expect, they're not coming in and spending free agent money. So it's going to be hard to change their rotation without drafting. They're not spending on free agency. And you could tell me they should. They don't. So give this front office a couple drafts, and all of a sudden you get, a number 3 starter and a 4 starter in the draft around a couple guys. Now we got something going. Just like when you see Condon come up here, And all of a sudden, where does he fit? You're like, okay, we got something here. Karros is hitting, Condon's hitting. We got Rumfield. Now you're like, there's 4 or 5 young guys who can play. You got Hunter Goodman. Now you got something. But they're not there from a pitching standpoint. But I do think fans that know baseball are watching this saying, offensively, this is a really promising, encouraging team. And what will it look like as they go through the season from a rotation standpoint? And I would say this, I want to see Condon. And I don't know if that's going to be August, if it's going to, I imagine at this point, they'd really still love it to be September, but I want to see Condon.
Yeah, I think you're right when it comes to Condon. I got to look up what with next year with the CBA, like what it means if there is like a worst case scenario, having a guy on the roster like that before before next year, right? Because you start the clock. Like the draft is on Saturday, so Saturday's the first run at it for this Rockies franchise in the front office. I've already ran into a couple agents when I was in LA, and I asked them, like, what's your take on Rockies front office? Does it feel different? And they said yes. And I said, well, how? Everything with the draft and for guys that they have that they're interested in, it's a different discussion than in years past. So we'll see what that means. But that seemed like a bright spot when I heard it. I was like, oh, cool. Like, that's good. More collaboration. That's great. And the next couple weeks, Troy, I'm telling you, when I look at the Rockies roster, this draft, and looking at some of the players in the minor leagues and what's currently on the roster, this could be one of the most transformative 3-week periods we'll see. Like we could see a lot of turnover, a lot of change, a lot of opportunities that they'll actually take a swing at, and then a draft that I think is going to be much more different than in years past. So this thing could be pushed forward in a hyperdrive, Rockies hyperdrive, which would be
fun. Because you're talking about you could trade Moniak, you could trade Senzatella, you bring up Veen and or Condon, you and all of a sudden you draft a future guy. We look back in 2 years and say you got an ace of your staff or whatever that. So I like what you're saying there, because we could look back in a couple years and say, remember that deadline of 2026 when they got this piece, created opportunity for this guy, and they drafted these 2 guys in the first, because they have 3 picks in like the first 70
I believe so,
or something?
Yeah, I don't have it memorized off the top. That's for our next pod, is when we start going through the draft and who we got, who the Rockies got, which I'm good at the big league
who's
stuff.
gonna play Mel Kiper? You're gonna play Mel Kiper?
I
could get my hair bigger.
Yeah, you'll be Mel Kiper.
Get my hair bigger and pull it back.
So there we go. All right, Troy, great job. We will come back with a new pod next week, and have a great little break, everybody.